true. Elon Musk has reinstated Donald Trump's Twitter account. He was unsuspended, like my pants when I used to dance at Chippendales. That's after Musk posted a poll in which over 15 million users voted in favor of reinstatement. Of course, we're still waiting on the results of that poll from Maricopa County. The final result, 51.8% in favor, 48.2% opposed, which is the same ratio of people at Fox who voted that I should come to work topless. Oh. Yeah, I edged out Trey Gowdy by a couple of points. On Saturday, Musk tweeted, "The people have spoken. Trump will be reinstated. Vox populi, vox dei." I think that last part is Latin for F you whiny losers. It actually means the voice of the people is the voice of God. Whoever heard that never heard Joy Behar on the toilet. Just think about it. Now, it's been a while since Trump's been on Twitter. It's been so long that Tom Brady is divorced, Kanye is no longer a billionaire, and Ilhan Omar is now shaving her mustache 3 times a week. Don't clap for that. That's disgusting. I disown that. Oh, brother. He was banned on January 8th, 2021. Do you remember why? I sure don't. I remember him saying, "March peacefully to the Capitol." But earlier in the day, Trump didn't seem too excited to return. I bet he heard we're getting a big vote to also go back on Twitter.
I hear we're getting a big vote to also go back on Twitter. I don't see it because I don't see any reason for it. Truth Social is through the roof. It's doing phenomenally well.
Still, Musk's decision on Trump sets the stage for the return of the platform's most influential user since Michael Moore's fingers got too fat. Wow. And of course, right on cue, the media, politicians, and celebs already freaking out. From a New York Times op-ed, quote, "I studied Trump's Twitter use for 6 years. Prepare for the worst." So that's what they do instead of verifying Hunter's laptop. But anyone who studied Trump's tweets for 6 years is, to borrow a Trump phrase, a loser. I mean, that person is living life at a breakneck pace. I imagine he or she hasn't had sex without requiring AA batteries in years. Then there's rock star Jack White deactivating his record label account. In an absurdly long Instagram post, he compared Trump to the KKK, a hate group that did to blacks what Jack White's last album did to everyone's ears. Trust me, and I'm a fan. Then there was the panic vomit from the dopes on cable.
Anyone who woke up this morning and saw that news had an avalanche of dread hit them.
I'm absolutely disgusted, but what else do we expect from very white, privileged, cis, hetero men protecting each other?
He's going to politicize it, he's going to use it, and all of those domestic terrorists that he's leading will have a voice.
Should we pray for Twitter to just collapse?
It just underscores the erratic leadership of Twitter now under Musk, but also the security concerns with security people fleeing Twitter and what that means for the protection of Americans' private data.
Well, that guy's more full of crap than Jerry Nadler's pants. But his reaction was what many echoed, and you're likely to keep hearing, that Musk's leadership puts data at risk. And it's not just from individuals, even entire networks, who you might expect would welcome more speech, no matter who it's from. I mean, CBS now cares about your privacy. The network that pioneered ambush journalism with 60 Minutes. Late Friday, they shut down their various accounts in what they called, quote, "in light of the uncertainty around Twitter and out of an abundance of caution." An abundance of caution. What? I mean, that's what the legacy media is known for being? Overly cautious before they put something out there to the public? Where should we start, you? Russiagate, Whipgate, the Fine People hoax, Hunter's laptop is Russian disinfo? When it suits them, the networks jump the gun more often than a sprinter on meth. But by Sunday morning, CBS came back saying they'll continue to monitor the situation. In response, Elon posted this Brokeback Mountain meme. With the caption, "Our love will never die." He also tweeted this to CBS. They should bring Walter Cronkite back. As you know, Walter Cronkite is dead, so it's not possible, but it's funny. So the current funniest dude on Twitter, Musk, has just brought back the previous reigning champion, Trump, and we should embrace it because it's pissing off people who would love to ban things they don't want to hear rather than counter it with more speech. And they're also the same people who express more alarm over tweets than rampant crime, soaring inflation, or being on the cusp of a world war. In short, they're very selfish people, for they happily accept the current effed up presidency because it doesn't affect their fragile psyche. And due to their wealth and high status, they can endure the cost. Sure, everyone's paying more for food, and some people never make it home from work. But at least these losers, they don't wake up at night having to think of Trump. Too bad it's over.
No, I would just say this. I think he should come back to Twitter. I mean, 90 million people he got in 24 hours. If he's running for president, how can you not use that platform? But my favorite is the NAACP president. He said that Elon is failing democracy. And then you go over to Face the Nation, these like Sunday shows, which are, high-minded, right?
Yeah.
Well, they had an expert on who said this is 100% Russian disinformation that fueled the poll.
Yeah.
This is the GRU speaking, not the people of the world. I mean, come on, buddy.
Yeah.
Really, Russia? We're going to go back to Russia and failing democracy. Sounds familiar.
That's amazing. All right. Don't you love to see that? How they were filled with an avalanche of dread. It's about their psyche. They don't show any pain for the inflation or crime, but they're worried.
They're worried about Trump coming back. Yeah.
And I have to focus for a moment on the CBS, what they did.
Yes.
That to me, because, we expect a lot of hysteria coming out of the libs and the progressive left and the wokes and everyone. But the media writ large, for them to come out in their, self-perceived austerity and say, we are closely monitoring the situation. Where have you been the past few years? Democrat-led cities, triple-digit spikes in violent crimes, crickets. 12 police officers shot in 1 week last month, silence. Record-breaking migrants die at the southern border, 856 this fiscal year. Nothing from them whatsoever. But Donald Trump returning to a social media app, pandemonium.
Yep.
I mean, you know what, though? Let the libs burn themselves out. Because as far as I'm concerned, I come to Fox News for news, and I go to Twitter for hysteria.
Yep.
Well done. It is kind of like an interesting analogy that Emily brought up, Kat. You kind of like when the media responds to Trump, they have to they're like a pet. They have to run around in circles. You just have to wait till they tire out, and then you get on with your day. How did you take the news? What did you do?
Nothing. I also don't believe all these people who hate Trump saying that they're upset about him being back on Twitter, because all of us, I mean, okay, maybe it's just me, but I don't think so. My favorite people to follow on social media are not the people I like.
Right.
It's the people who are the best, most entertaining people to talk about.
Yes.
Some of you get it.
Yeah.
Like certain friends you've met or family, you're like, oh, you're not going to believe what she said, send it to the group chat. So I think the people who hate Trump are probably the most excited because they've actually, ever since Trump's been off Twitter, they've had to work a little harder. Rather than a lot of these journalists, all they would do was just quote everything he tweeted and go, wow.
Yeah. And that's what they would do even when he was on Truth Social. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, he can't go on Twitter because that's why you go to Truth Social, to see him.
Yeah.
Right. He can't, but he needs to. I mean, if he's running for president, you can't leave 90 million people hanging.
It would be funny if he just never did, though.
Yeah.
It would be funny.
After all this, he never does a tweet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
That would be
Tweets
funny.
one thing, I'm not tweeting.
No.
I'm not tweeting.
Not at
And then
all.
He goes, one more thing.
But if
All
he
right.
doesn't, how long will people talk about it?
Yeah.
He still doesn't do it.
Yeah, that's...
And I'm watching the news now, they're declaring the end of the Trump era. Now, okay, I can see how in New York you might believe this is the end of his era. I'm just being honest with you. I live in Ohio amongst the poor whites. A lot of you don't understand why Trump was so popular, but I get it, because I hear it every day. He's very loved. And the reason he's loved is because people in Ohio have never seen somebody like him. He's what I call an honest liar. No, I'm not joking right now. He's an honest liar. That first debate, I'd never seen anything like it. I've never seen a white male billionaire, screaming at the top of his lungs, "This whole system is rigged," he said. And across the stage was a white woman, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, sitting over there looking at him like, "No, it's not." I said, "Now, wait a minute, bro. It's what he said." And the moderator said, "Well, Mr. Trump, if in fact the system is rigged, as you suggest, what would be your evidence?" Remember what he said, bro? He said, "I know the system is rigged because I use it." I said, "God damn." And then he pulled out an Illuminati membership card and chopped a line of cocaine up and did it right at the podium. No one had ever heard someone say something that true. And then Hillary Clinton tried to punch him in the taxes. She said, "This man doesn't pay his taxes." He shot right back. "That makes me smart." And then he said, "If you want me to pay my taxes, then change the tax code. But I know you won't, because your friends and your donors enjoy the same tax breaks that I do." And with that, my friends, the star was born. No one had ever seen anything like that. No one had ever seen somebody come from inside of that house, outside, and tell all the commoners, "We are doing everything that you think we are doing," inside of that house. They just went right back in the house and started playing the game again.
We need more gun control, Joe Biden said predictably, notwithstanding the fact that Colorado's existing gun control laws, which are extensive, did not prevent this attack. So it was a contemptible and heartless and deeply cynical display of political opportunism. But it didn't stop with gun control, because in fact, the Second Amendment is not the freedom that threatens the people in charge the most. No, that would be the First Amendment, which is your right to say what you sincerely believe. That is the right, the first in our Bill of Rights, that terrifies them the most. Your words are a greater threat than any firearm. They must censor you, or else they lose power. It is that simple. So these horrifying murders in Colorado over the weekend quickly became a pretext for yet more censorship of your speech. You are responsible for this, they told you, because you said the wrong things. You are guilty of stochastic terrorism, inspiring violence by your beliefs. Anderson Lee Aldrich committed mass murder because you complained about the sexualizing of children. Every time you object to Drag Time Story Hour for fifth graders, or point out that genital mutilation is being committed on minors, which it is, every time you say that, you are putting people's lives at risk. Now that seems implausible, and yet many are making this claim. Many have made it over the past 24 hours. Watch, for example, Brandy Zadrozny of NBC.
Online, including this Libs of TikTok account, which feeds larger media like Fox News stories. What has happened is a demonization of LGBTQ people, calling them groomers and pedophiles. This type of thing, whether we can say it's motive or not, what we know is that it's just another reason why LGBTQ people are scared.
There it is, right there. When you point out the truth, indisputably, and the truth is that some adults in this country, apparently a growing number, have a deeply unhealthy fixation on the sexuality of children. When you say that out loud, you get people killed. That is what Brandy Zadrozny is saying. And by saying that, Brandy Zadrozny and the many people like her are effectively defending that same deeply unhealthy fixation on the sexuality of children. By the way, it's absolutely real. You're not imagining that. It's happening. The evidence is everywhere, and it comes to light on the internet. And Brandy Zadrozny and people like her hate that you are seeing that. Notice that Zadrozny is not claiming that Libs of TikTok is making this up. She never even suggests that. She is threatening them, and what she's doing is threatening them, you should know. And she's doing that because they're pointing it out. Noticing it's happening is their crime. And once again, it is happening. Children's Hospital in Boston, one of the most famous hospitals in the world, has admitted performing double mastectomies on children for no medical reason at all. There is no scientific justification for sexually mutilating kids. They are not doing it for a scientifically defensible reason. They are doing it because they believe in a very specific religious ideology. That's true. Is pointing that out an attack on gay people? Of course it is not an attack on gay people. It has nothing to do with gay people. It has to do with sexually mutilating children, which is wrong, period. It should be a crime, period. And yet suddenly it's very common. As we've reported on this show, UCSF, University of California, San Francisco Hospital, one of the leading hospitals in the world, is doing this as well. And they've said so out loud. This is an actual quote from their website, quote, "Genital surgery is being performed on a case-by-case basis more frequently in minors. In the absence of solid evidence, providers often must rely on the expert opinions of innovators and thought leaders in the field." So your child gets sexually mutilated, genital surgery that is irreversible, not on the basis of science, but on the basis of innovators and thought leaders. It's hard to believe that's happening. That quote was scrubbed, by the way, after we reported on it, not because it wasn't a real quote, but because it was a real quote. It was too incriminating. Once again, this is everywhere. A parent in Pennsylvania called Megan Brock decided to do some actual reporting on it because actual reporters choose not to. They look away and attack anyone who wants to know what's actually happening. So she filed a records request. And this week she obtained a 2017 email from Dr. Nadia Doushin at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Again, one of the most famous hospitals in the world, known as CHOP, a widely beloved institution that has helped very many. But in this case, what they were doing shocks the senses. In a communication with now HHS Secretary Rachel Levine, she wrote this, quote, "I'm not aware of existing literature," this is Doushin, "but certainly it is happening. I think we've had more than 10 patients who have had chest surgery under 18, as young as 15, and bottom surgery, 17. That's the sexual mutilation of children for no medical or scientific reason, simply because right now it is fashionable and consistent with a cult that has taken over a lot of the leadership of this country. But the fact remains, children are being destroyed by this. It should be a crime. The people who commit it should be in jail. But it's not just the sexual mutilation of children in hospitals. This is part of a larger trend, and the trend is this: adults crossing the line, and it has always been a bright line, into deep involvement with the sexuality of children. That has always been, and must in a civilized society always be, the most forbidden thing. It's considered unacceptable even among prison inmates. But now it seems to be growing in its prevalence. Consider the latest ad for the clothing brand Balenciaga. This was just uploaded on Instagram. As you can see, the photo shoot they're using to sell their products features a young girl holding a teddy bear in a bondage outfit. Then, in case you missed the point, the photo shoot also contains this image. It shows several documents. Most of them aren't visible, but what you can see when you zoom in, and of course the point is that you see it, is a reference to a U.S. Supreme Court case called Ashcroft versus Free Speech Coalition. That case struck down a law against kiddie porn. What is this? Well, it is what it appears to be. It's an endorsement of kiddie porn, of child pornography. What else could it be? We wanted to know. So we reached out today to Balenciaga to get their explanation, and they didn't respond. So we're going to have to take that on face value and ask, where's the moral outrage? We have an entire industry in this country comprised of moral outrage merchants. If you've ever been on Twitter, you know what we mean. Truly, an entire sector of our economy is devoted to attacking people for falling short of the mark. And here is a high-end retailer promoting kiddie porn in an ad on Instagram, and nobody notices. There's no boycott. There's no front-page New York Times editorial against it. And of course, Instagram let the advertisement run, endorsing kiddie porn. And by the way, if you have an alternate explanation for what this was, let us know. A child with a teddy bear in a bondage outfit and a Supreme Court decision striking down a kiddie porn law displayed on the table? What is that? Are we jumping to conclusions? Don't think so. It is what it appears to be. It's right in your face and no one's saying anything. Again, Instagram had no problem with this. Until Elon Musk took over Twitter, Twitter allowed hashtags that explicitly linked to child pornography. Nobody said anything because crimes against children are no big deal. It's thought crimes that are the real crimes. So if you said something about it, if you were libs of TikTok and said, wait a second, this seems to be abetting child molestation, which of course, that's what it's doing, you were instantly booted off Twitter. But the links to kiddie porn, they're still there. Well, now they've been deleted. Thank God. That's one improvement. So all of this has been happening out in the open, but NBC News hasn't bothered to report on any of it. Where was their report tonight on Balenciaga pushing kiddie porn in an Instagram ad? No. They're reserving all their energy to attack you for noticing. You're a stochastic terrorist if you point it out. And you need to be censored. Watch.
Content moderation is a hard task. What we know is that Twitter and where the bulk of this information is right now, because that's where the biggest accounts like Matt Walsh and Libs of TikTok, again, where they sort of post this stuff. What's being done? Well, 2 days ago, we know that Elon Musk, who owns Twitter now, he just reversed the policy that Twitter did have against targeting and harassment of LGBTQ people, against misgendering transgender people.
So here you have people mutilating the genitals of children, running ads on Instagram promoting kiddie porn. And there's Brandy Zadrozny on NBC News. She's not attacking them. She's attacking anyone who notices and accusing them of attacking gay people. Once again, this has nothing to do with gay people. This is an attack on the sexual fixation on and mutilation of the genitals of children, pushing kiddie porn. There's nothing to do with gay people. That's an offense against anyone's definition of decency, and she's effectively defending it, and they all are. You're not allowed to notice it, or else you're committing violence. You're complicit in mass murder. Well, the people who are doing these things are fine. No one attacked them. An ACLU spokesman launched this attack on Doug Lamborn, a congressman from Colorado. Watch this. He voted against the Respect for Marriage Act and is a co-sponsor of Marjorie Taylor Greene's nationwide ban on gender-affirming care for trans youth. Huh? That's the crime? Children having their genitals mutilated on the basis of no science, no actual real medical guidance, no longitudinal study? There's no evidence this is a good idea, but GLAAD is for it, so doctors mindlessly do it, and you can't complain or else you're a murderer? Too crazy. These are our children. Can't put up with it. For her part, GLAAD's president declared that because of Saturday's shooting, you need to shut up while activist doctors mutilate children.
In terms of trans kids and gender-affirming care, the American Medical Association, the Pediatric Association has confirmed that these are safe procedures. This is finished business. It's politicians and junk science who's creating some kind of debate or argument about this.
Really? Now, we realize she's paid to say that. Of course, all these activists are paid to say what they say. Very specifically paid. ACLU is paid to say what they say. They all are. ADL's paid to say what it says. GLAAD is paid to say what it says. But the truth is, the no BS scientific truth is, there's no evidence it's safe. Where's the 10-year study on that? Do you have one? Oh, you don't have one. We have no idea what the long-term effects of puberty blockers are. We have no idea. We can't even guess as to the long-term psychological effects of genital mutilation on a 17-year-old or 15-year-old. What? You have no idea it's safe. You're lying. It's not a safe procedure. We've spoken to a lot of victims of this barbarism, and it is barbarism. We did a whole documentary on it, and by the end of the documentary, we were more shocked than when we started reporting it out. Even people who support these procedures can't actually defend them, and that's the whole point. They have to make you shut up because they don't have any facts on their side. If you're not okay with child abuse, you're a murderer. And it's worked on a lot of weak-minded journalists who only care about status and acceptance by the group. But there are a few on whom it has not worked. And at the top of that list is Chris Rufo.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.
2 years later, CBS finally admits Trump was right and the Hunter laptop is real. What does this mean for the big guy? When it comes to dramas, you always need new blood. You can't just have the same people over and over again, season after season. Sometimes you have to spice things up with a new face. They did it with Growing Pains when they brought in Leonardo DiCaprio, or Happy Days when they introduced Chachi. And they're doing it right now with The Squad. You see, it's been a few years since the new members joined, and The Squad's getting a little stale. It's time to bring in some new peeps. And the perfect person has just arrived in D.C. Giselle Fetterman. And she's catching on quickly. She's having lunch with other prominent spouses like Mayor Pete's husband. She's been featured in Vogue, and she's a big fan of fashion and bragging about her $12 dress. And she's even got the talking points down. Listen to this. Giselle told the New Republic that she's been inundated with threats from the right. She says this: the right wing hates women. They especially hate strong women. Since entering the Capitol for training, my inbox has been completely filled with threats and horrible things. Is it me, or is she sounding a lot like AOC?
I felt that my life has been in danger since the moment that I won my primary election in 2018. I hesitate to walk my dog. It means when I come home, I have to ask my fiance to come out to where my car is to walk me to just from my car to my front door.
The good news is the women of the squad stick together. So Giselle's in good hands. Now, I'm old enough to remember a time when you weren't even allowed to talk about Hunter's laptop.
I think it's one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen, and you don't cover it. You want to talk about...
Well, because it can't be verified.
You want to talk about insignificant things.
I'm telling you.
Of course it can be verified. Excuse me, they found the laptop. Leslie.
It can't be verified.
What can't be verified?
The laptop.
It was only the election that was on the line, Leslie. No big deal. But now the story is getting too big for even CBS to contain. With the Biden family looking down the barrel of a serious congressional investigation, CBS is having a sudden change of heart. Watch.
The president's son will be a target for investigations, and that means data from a laptop reported to belong to Biden could be crucial to the investigatory process. CBS News has obtained its data.
You're confident, based on your analysis, this is Hunter Biden's data and that it's real?
Yes.
Forensic experts recovered images of credit cards, a driver's license, social security number.
Just the sheer volume of what we're dealing with, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to fabricate.
There was one thing that got my attention, and that was a voicemail.
It's Dad. I called to tell you I love you. I love you more than the whole world, pal. I gotta get some help.
That voicemail, apparently from Joe Biden during his son Hunter's drug addiction, is one of many findings Lanterman used to authenticate what is believed to be Hunter Biden's laptop. Mr. Biden has consistently denied knowledge of his son's work or financially benefiting from it.
I've never spoken to my son about overseas.
Tony Bobulinski, who received the email, told CBS News the 10 held by H for the big guy is shorthand for 10% held by Hunter for his father.
Wait, CBS, you're telling me Hunter's laptop's real now? And Joe Biden's the big guy? I thought this was just one big conspiracy theory. Well, Primetime reached out to Leslie Stahl at CBS and asked her if she'd be apologizing to the former president for insisting the laptop couldn't be verified. And we haven't heard back. I'm starting to realize Democrat October surprises are all hoaxes and Republican October surprises are all true. You just have to wait until after the election to find out. And to have a free and fair election, you kind of need to know the truth before the election. That way voters can make an honest assessment and not have any regrets. But let's look at the bright side. If the media didn't bury the laptop, Joe Biden would have never been able to give his granddaughter the wedding of her dreams. The one this weekend where Hunter's daughter was able to tie the knot on the South Lawn. Did Hunter even pay for the wedding? Because earlier this year, his sugar brother had to pay back $2 million in back taxes for him. And buried in the reporting of the wedding, Hunter's daughter, Naomi, you know, the one who just got married, has been living on the 3rd floor of the White House since the summer. Who else from the Biden family is living at the White House that we don't know about? Is Corn Pop crashing in the Lincoln bedroom? I guess since Hunter is dead broke, President Biden probably had to pony up the cash for his granddaughter's wedding. That's okay. It's just as long as the big guy gets 10% of the wedding gifts, everyone's happy. Wouldn't be the first time Biden got a cut of the china. But back to business. When is the White House finally going to tell the truth about this?
Can you address whether the president was involved in any of his son, Hunter, or his brother's foreign business deals?
So look, there's a little bit of interesting
kind of on-brand thinking here.
Clay Travis is the host of Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, and he joins us now. Do you give the CBS any credit at all for finally coming around to verifying this thing, or is it just it's too little too late?
It's too little too late, Jesse. I mean, look, this is absolutely ridiculous. Anybody with a functional brain for 2 years has known that this was 100% real. Give credit to Miranda Devine. She wrote an entire book about it, Laptop from Hell. And you could go look at this stuff widely distributed all over the internet yourself. And remember, I love that clip you showed of Lesley Stahl because it perfectly illustrates how much willful blindness there was on behalf of CBS. She said they couldn't authenticate it. All they did was go find some random guy in Minneapolis and say, hey, can you confirm this is real? But they waited 2 years. They waited till after the midterms had already happened, Jesse, and they did it in the perfect correspondence here. They also, CBS said, Twitter's not safe enough anymore. We've paused all our activity on Twitter, which I think is a perfect connection here. And then they come running back after 48 hours when they realize that there's actually nothing that people care about on CBS if they can't distribute it through the internet and through Twitter. So the whole company is a sham. Let's be honest. They're a joke.
So, CBS has never really needed to verify anything before reporting it. I mean, they reported garbage about Trump and Russia for 2 years. If they actually had to wait to verify every single thing they reported, they wouldn't have reported any of the hoaxes they've reported. All of a sudden now, when it hurts somebody, they have these incredibly high journalistic standards that takes 2 years to nail down. You're not buying that.
Lesley Stahl should be ashamed and embarrassed, Jesse. And credit to you guys for reaching out. She should have to speak out on this. And credit to Donald Trump for sharing that clip of what was, if you remember, a very contentious 60 Minutes interview. His side went ahead and grabbed everything. But he was asking the question that is the most paramount associated with Joe Biden's election, and that is, has he been co-opted, taken over effectively based on all these business shenanigans that Hunter was involved in? And remember, I think this is important, Jesse. Look, what Hunter Biden did and his proclivities with prostitutes and drugs and all the felonies that he committed are fine, right? Like, he should be charged with crimes there. But what we're directly talking about here is the evidence that Joe Biden was complicit in those crimes. And that is what people have tried to deny from the moment this laptop came out. I thought the New York Post did a good job of not just going after all the salacious porn videos that are out there and focusing on 10% for the big guy, on the relationship of Joe Biden himself with the Biden family criminal enterprise. It's all there. This guy, I believe they're starting to toss him to the Lions because this is an advantage of winning the House, Jesse. Finally, it's going to be almost impossible to ignore all the complicity and all the lies.
It's like when your wife asks you why you didn't do the dishes and you say, well, I didn't see them. And they're sitting there filthy dirty all over the apartment.
Speaking of which, yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Of course you saw them. You just didn't do them. But you said, I didn't see them. It doesn't.
I didn't see the garbage either.
I didn't see
Jesse,
it. I
missed the garbage a lot, too. I missed that.
Just didn't see
a lot,
it.
too.
Plausible deniability. That's how you get by. All right, Clay Travis, you better get back and help your wife out with something.
It's a tremendous honor to be with you. Before we begin, I want to address the appalling announcement today by the egregiously corrupt Biden administration and their weaponized Department of Justice. Would you like me to talk about that? Larry, would you like me to talk about that? This horrendous abuse of power is the latest in a long series of witch hunts. We started a long time ago. I thought the investigation with the document hoax was dying or dead or over, and the investigation into January 6th, in my very peaceful and patriotic speech, remember? Peaceful and patriotically, was dead, especially after the record-setting 40-point loss of Liz Cheney in the great state of Wyoming. I thought it was dead. I thought that put the final nail in the coffin, only to find out that the corrupt and highly political Justice Department just appointed a super radical left special counsel, better referred to as a special prosecutor, to start the process all over again. We thought it was just about dead. As you know, just about the top person, one of the top people in the Justice Department, Lisa Monaco, a major Trump hater, major, I mean beyond belief, is in charge of the case, and she's totally controlled by Andrew Weissman. You ever hear the name Andrew Weissman? I think you did. In this room you did. Bad person, bad guy, but he's an even bigger Trump hater. Sounds like a fair deal so far, do you agree? Who works tirelessly as he did on the Mueller scam, which ended up, as you know, no collusion, to do bad things to the greatest movement. They want to do bad things to the greatest movement in the history of our country, but in particular, bad things to me. But I've gotten used to it. It's lucky. It's lucky. A lot of people wouldn't get used to it so easily. This is a rigged deal, just as the 2020 election was rigged, and we can't let them get away with it. We can't do it. We cannot let this happen to our country. I've been going through these investigations and hoaxes and scams from the day I came down the escalator at Trump Tower, and you'd really say enough is enough. Got to get back to work. Got to prove that we have a great country again, because right now it's not great. Right now it's a laughing stock all over the world, and we sort of all had it. The people of the country have had it. Joe Biden is a corrupt and incompetent political hack, and you take a look at all of the money that he's taken from foreign countries and others, much of it through his son Hunter, who is a corrupt drug addict and implementer for his father. Where's their special prosecutor, by the way? Where's their special? They said when I announced they had to do this. Well, he announced too. He said he wants to run. Where's their special prosecutor? And we are innocent. They are not innocent by any stretch of the imagination. They have the proof right out there for all to see. They left the exact blueprint of much of the criminal activity is done on his laptop from hell, they call it, the laptop from hell, which was gotten inadvertently, but luckily for America, when he incredibly left it at the repair shop to be fixed. That was not a good day. That was not a good leave. I wonder if the father was upset about it. He may not have understood the meaning. Did he understand that that was not good? Because he said he's the smartest person I've ever known. Right? Hunter's the smartest person I've ever known. A lot of people shook their heads at that one. Does everybody remember the $1 billion of USA funds paid to Ukraine under the condition that they get rid of the prosecutor? That prosecutor's got to be fired. Remember that? Nothing gets done. Why isn't there a special counsel being set up for them? Tremendous corruption. They're corrupt people. They're criminals. I've done nothing wrong. They participated in massive criminal activity with many other nations. And one day after House of, you know what's happening, you take a look at what just went on with this election, which is so important because the House Republicans announced they were going to investigate the Bidens, and the Justice Department announces right after that that they're going to investigate Trump. And it's not a fair situation what's going on. And I guarantee you they get a fair investigation. This will not be a fair investigation. But again, I thought this was all done or very close to being done. These people are corrupt, and yet they go after innocent people under the guise of legitimacy. Over the years, I've given millions and millions of pages of documents, tax returns, and everything else. And they have found nothing, which means I've proven to be one of the most honest and innocent people ever in our country. Larry knows that. They got everything. Millions, think of it. Like I hear 11 million pages. I built a great company. Now they see how great it is, now that they're looking at it. I built a great, great company. But think of it, millions of pages, they got nothing. So I've sort of had it. On January 6th, I've already tried, and you take a look with the fake impeachment hoax, and I won. I was tried on the fake impeachment hoax on January 6th. And they tried it in the Senate. They went through the whole process, and we won. We went through the whole process. So wouldn't this sort of be a... and then you take a look at the other. We went through two of them. And isn't this sort of like double jeopardy? In the old days, they used to call it double jeopardy. But essentially, we've done so well, and we did well in a very hostile Congress, We had great Republican support. I have to tell you that. It was great because they saw something was really unfair. We were being unfairly treated. I made a perfect phone call. In fact, many of the people in this room called. They said, that call is perfect. And some of the people in the room would not have actually gone with us, but that was an absolutely perfect phone call. I got impeached for a perfect phone call. Could you imagine if the call was actually a bad call? Could you imagine that? And on the document hoax, this is a total hoax that's going on. The Presidential Records Act and the Clinton Sox case, you know what that is, right? That's a case that's so powerful in our favor. Make everything that I've done totally legal and proper. It's totally legal and proper. There's just a witch hunt for no reason. Well, for political reasons, let's say. And they know that. It shouldn't even be a case, but if it is, why aren't they investigating all of the other presidents that preceded me, including Bill Clinton, both Bushes, Obama, and of course Hillary Clinton, where she illegally deleted 33,000 emails after getting a top-level subpoena from the U.S. Congress. So she's allowed to get a subpoena and delete 33,000 after the subpoena, not before, after. Why aren't they going after all of those presidents that kept documents where, in a couple of cases, in one case they had it in a Chinese restaurant with broken windows, in another case they had a Chinese restaurant connected to a bowling alley. This is where the documents were kept. They took documents with them. President Obama took documents. It is such an unfair situation that's happening in this country to Republicans and to conservatives. And you people have to fight. You have to fight. You have to be strong. If they're going to investigate me, they have to investigate all of these other presidents, and they have to start it right now. They have to invade. This is Mar-a-Lago. They have to invade Hillary and Bill Clinton's beautiful home in Westchester. They have to invade the Bush's home. They have to invade a lot of homes, but they didn't do that. And they took documents, they took a lot of things, and that's what we have the Presidential Records Act for. We're living in a very corrupt country right now. Never had anything like it. Our elections are rigged, tainted, and bad, and take forever to get results, longer than any other country on the planet. We have elections still out there, and they won't be in for weeks. Third world countries have their elections in that same day, or maybe the next day. We have weeks and weeks and weeks for far fewer. Look at France, all paper ballots, voter ID, same-day voting. They had 36 million votes all done by 10:30 in the evening, and no complaints. Nobody said, gee whiz, this was not a proper election. We're a third world country in our elections, and our borders are wide open with unknown people, many of them, many millions and millions. Criminals, terrorists pouring into our country, millions. And don't believe when you hear 2 million or 3 million. I believe it's 10 million people. I believe it's 10 million. Our country is changing before our very eyes. We have no idea who these people are and where they came from. And they're terrorists, and they're criminals, and they're murderers, they're rapists. And they're pouring into our country totally unimpeded. We have massive inflation, rampant crime. You can't even walk down the streets in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, and every other Democrat-run city without getting mugged, shot, or killed. In Chicago recently, they had 82 people shot, 82 over a weekend. But they said it was a long weekend. Oh, okay, that's better. It was a long weekend. In Afghanistan, when I was in charge, we didn't have one killing. Think of it. In 18 months, not one of our soldiers were killed. And then you look at Chicago and you look at other things. And we should have never left the way we left. I'm the one that started the leaving. I'm the one that got them down to the right number. But you leave the military, you take out the military last. We left people, we left American citizens, we left dead soldiers. And we left $85 billion worth of the best military equipment in the world. It's unthinkable what we did. And by the way, one of the largest sellers of military equipment right now in the world, I think number 2 or 3 right after us, is Afghanistan, the Taliban. They're one of the largest sellers of, they're selling out because they don't need 700,000 rifles. They don't need 77,000 trucks that we left behind. Many of them brand new, never even used. We have drugged out crazy people walking around. Our economy is crashing, and we're teetering on the brink of World War III, and the word nuclear is used in a very light fashion. It was never used before. You never heard the word used during the Trump administration, and it should never be used because of the power. It should never be used. Nobody should be allowed to use that word. And yet all the corrupt Marxists in the Biden administration can think about it. It's all they can think about. That's all they have in their mind is, come after Trump, we got to get Trump. They say they want to run against me, but they're spending fortunes. Let's take him out. If they really wanted to run against me, they'd say, let's leave him in. Let's leave him in. Because they are the party of misinformation. They give massive misinformation. They say one thing, but they mean another. And you have to understand them. They're sick people in so many ways. But we've done nothing wrong, and they've committed massive crimes. We're not going to let these atrocious abuses continue. We can't. As a party, we can't, and as a nation, we can't. We're going to stand up to these tyrants, and we're going to take away their power, and we're going to restore government for the people. That's what we have to do. As I said earlier this week, America's comeback starts right now. Starts right now.
So tonight we're going to focus on two key questions. Is equal justice under the law dead in the United States of America? And if so, can it be brought back to life? If not, well, our Constitution is worthless. You might as well just shred it, because every law is based on that document. Now, late last week, the Washington Post reported that the FBI's unprecedented raid at Mar-a-Lago revealed nothing nefarious. Instead of ending the investigation, Biden's DOJ, by the way, he would have the power to stop this, appointed an aggressive left-wing special prosecutor to dig more into all of this and keep the probe into all things Trump open in perpetuity. Okay, the country has a lot of important problems to deal with: inflation, high gas prices, open borders, etc., and crime. Is this equal justice? Now, we're going to get back to that special prosecutor in a minute, but first, let's be clear, this is not normal. For reference, let's look at three other high-profile cases that were handled so much differently because they're Democrats. Now, it's a fact, Hillary Clinton, she did mishandle a mountain of classified evidence on her unsecured private servers. And that's when she was with the State Department. Emails that were recovered, 110 of them contained classified information. 8 email chains contained top secret material. Another 36 contained secret information. Another 8 contained confidential material. And then, of course, we have the 33,000 other emails that, well, nobody ever found, because they were deleted with something nobody had ever heard of called BleachBit. They acid washed the hard drive. Now, these are the emails that we know about, the 30,000, and she's accused of attempting to wipe the other servers all clean, and then having people that work for her smash, iPhones and BlackBerries and other devices, smash them into itsy-bitsy pieces and remove their SIM cards. We do know, however, that the server faced hacking attempts from multiple countries, including China, Serbia. According to the AP, quote, using a computer in Serbia, the hacker scanned Clinton's basement server in Chappaqua at least twice. And get this, Clinton emails were even found on Anthony Weiner's laptop during the FBI's investigation into his sex crimes. Now, Hillary Clinton clearly put our country's national security at risk. She never faced an early morning raid from the FBI. She didn't get slapped with a special prosecutor. And after a few months of investigation, well, then FBI Director Jim Comey announced that no reasonable prosecutor would ever prosecute Hillary Clinton. So I ask you, is that equal justice? You decide.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
Which brings us to Hillary Clinton's dirty dossier. Not only did Clinton mishandle classified information, but her campaign was also doing something very sketchy in Russia. Some might actually call this the real collusion. Funneling money through a law firm. They paid an ex-foreign spy, Christopher Steele, to compile Russian disinformation about Donald Trump. Apparently, the FBI didn't see that as a problem. Instead, they saw this as an opportunity. Again, we're asking a question. Does America have equal justice under the law? Despite warnings from a DOJ official, Bruce Orr, and others that the dossier was a political op research document, it was not to be trusted. And despite claims from the dossier author himself, Christopher Steele, that the material was unverifiable, and despite the dossier's subsource referring to the claim as nothing more than bar talk, the FBI used the dossier to obtain a FISA warrant and 3 subsequent renewals as a backdoor to spy on the Trump campaign, their transition team, and, of course, the White House. As Andrew McCabe said and indicated, no dossier, they wouldn't have gotten the FISA warrant approved. In fact, the FBI was so desperate for the salacious anti-Trump material, by the way, right in the lead up to the 2016 election, putting their thumbs on the scale, that they offered Christopher Steele $1 million of your dollars in early October 2016 if he could corroborate anything in the dossier. But guess what? He couldn't. But then after that, at the end of October, they used the unverifiable dossier anyway and straight up lied to FISA court judges and affirmed that it was, in fact, verified. It was not verifiable. The consequences for all involved, non-existent. But when it comes to Trump or Republicans, the upper echelon at the FBI's Washington field office searched far and wide for a crime that did not exist. They spent about 6 years doing it over the course of a special prosecutor, a special counsel, a search warrant of the president's home, numerous other warrants for other Trump associates. When it comes to Joe Biden and crimes that are in plain sight, the Washington field office is nowhere to be found. I'm asking, does this look like equal justice to you? Without any relevant experience, here you have, at the time, a guy, according to reports, was addicted to crack cocaine, had a proclivity for women of the night, raking in millions and millions of dollars from all over the world with no experience, $3.5 million wire transfer from a Russian oligarch known as the former First Lady of Moscow, then a $100 million investment from this same oligarch into a Biden-linked real estate firm, a $1.5 billion deal with the Bank of China, a $5 million interest-free forgivable loan. What's an interest-free forgivable loan? Another $100,000 for an international shopping spree for Hunter and his family, compliments of a prominent Chinese national, and millions more from Ukrainian oil and gas giant Burisma Holdings. That's where Joe withheld $1 billion of your dollars to get the prosecutor fired because his son was being paid millions with no experience. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. Hunter likely had lucrative financial relationships with numerous shady foreign nationals in more than a dozen countries. What was Hunter selling? What was his vast knowledge and experience that warranted millions of dollars being made? Was it just access to his father? Did his father benefit financially? Take a look.
In 2019, shortly after announcing his campaign for president, Joe Biden told the American people he had nothing to do with and never had conversations with his family about their business dealings. That was a lie. The Bidens flourished and became millionaires by simply offering access to the family. Among the dozens of shell companies the Bidens set up, there were millions of dollars of wire transfers, flights on Air Force Two to conduct personal business, and meetings with heads of state, all while Joe Biden was aware of what was happening. This is an investigation of Joe Biden, the President of the United States, and why he lied to the American people about his knowledge and participation in his family's international business schemes.
Now, we have a picture of Joe Biden with Hunter and Hunter's foreign business partners. We have a number of them. And in messages found on Hunter's very real laptop, a cut of the proceeds was always set aside for the big guy. Hunter complained bitterly about having to give up half of his income to, quote, Pops. Biden claims he never talked about business with his son. It's an obvious lie. And even the White House press secretary is having a hard time explaining all of this illicit activity. Take a look.
The top Republican on the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Comer, has said that he's investigating the president's involvement in his son Hunter's foreign business dealings. Looking for your reaction to that, and then on the merits of the allegations, can you address whether the president was involved in any of his son Hunter or his brother's foreign business dealings?
So look, there's a little bit of interesting, kind of on-brand thinking here.
On-brand thinking, no explanation, no special counsel investigation, no special prosecutor. Hunter's tax and money laundering investigation has been slow walk for years now, and the media mob is complaining that the House Republicans might conduct actual oversight, do their job, and investigate possible public corruption. In other words, again, I ask, is this equal justice under the law? Is it possible we have a president of the United States that is financially compromised by China and Russia and Ukraine and up to as many as 50 other countries the Bidens did business with? Far-left radical David Brock has been tasked with running defense against anyone that dares investigate Joe and Hunter. That usually means attacking and smearing and slandering. And at this point, the Bidens appear to be above the law. Well, if you're a Republican of any type, well, it's now, you face another baseless investigation, more special prosecutors, and, of course, with an extreme bias. According to a new report from John Solomon, Jack Smith helped the IRS target conservatives during the Lois Lerner IRS scandal. Now, this is the same prosecutor that conducted a hyper-aggressive prosecution against the former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell over, quote, bribery charges. Those charges were tossed out by the U.S. Supreme Court, but not before McDonnell's life was ruined. So, yes, there is rampant political bias at the DOJ, the highest levels of the FBI. We don't have equal justice under the law at the federal level, and this is going to be what Jim Jordan will be investigating. And then you have Congressman Comer on the other side will be investigating Hunter and Joe. And by the way, you should be worried that equal justice might be dead forever. And if that's true, this country, you might as well say we're not a constitutional republic anymore. Here with more, editor-in-chief, investigative reporter, justthenews.com, John Solomon. John, what did you find out about this prosecutor?
Well, in his earlier run at the Justice Department, not once but twice, he was involved in cases where the Justice Department was accused of stretching the law, pushing the limits of the law to pursue conservatives. The first time occurred in 2010 when congressional investigators started to find out what was the origins of the IRS Lois Lerner target conservative group scandal. Remember that big scandal, probably one of the worst in the Obama administration? Well, they found out it all began with an email that Jack Smith sent. He was at that time the head of the corruption unit at Justice Department called the Public Integrity Section, and he sends a letter after the Citizens United Supreme Court free speech case saying, hey, maybe we could build conspiracy cases against these conservative groups, these nonprofits, if they get involved in politics, basically sideline them from politics by pursuing them criminally. That led to a meeting, which then kind of pushed the IRS into the action that Lois Lerner took. We now know that ultimately the Treasury Department Inspector General found the pursuit of those conservative nonprofits to be unlawful, irregular, unwarranted. Around the same time, they began the investigation and the prosecution of Bob McDonnell, then the Virginia governor. He was on many people's short list to be a vice president, maybe in 2012. And they accused him of corruption and bribery. They convicted him. But then when they got to the Supreme Court said, listen, the team that Smith supervised stretched the meaning of public acts, went way beyond what the law meant, and they overturned, in a very embarrassing case, overturned the Public Integrity Section's prosecution of Bob McDonnell, one of the biggest losses in recent Public Integrity Section history. So in two cases pursuing conservatives, same outcome, stretch the law, end up getting into some sort of controversy.
Unbelievable. And the Supreme Court was very clear in that case that they talked about what they called the broader legal implications of the government's boundless interpretations of the federal bribery statute. That means they stretched it to get the outcome they wanted. John Solomon, thank you. All right, now let's turn to developments surrounding the AP. Apparently, the so-called journalists there are unable to find any evidence that Joe spoke to Hunter about all those lucrative international business deals. They reported, quote, Joe Biden has said he's never spoken to his son about his foreign business affairs, and nothing the Republicans have put forth suggests otherwise. Really? The AP has since deleted that part about the Republicans. Here now with more, Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley. You know, a simple question, Jonathan. You're a fair-minded guy. Do you believe that the investigations into Hillary Clinton, when you look into her servers, deleted emails, the dirty dossier, then, of course, the FBI's handling of that dossier and using it without verifying it. And then, of course, the Bidens, I mean, Hunter himself implicates his father all over the place. And then we have photographs that prove that Joe lied about knowing Hunter's associates or anything about the businesses. So my question is, do we have equal justice under the law in those three examples?
Well, I think the record is clear that there's been political bias at the FBI. The FBI itself has recognized that. They have removed key officials like Peter Strzok and others who showed incredible bias in their emails and in some cases in their actions. So I think there's reason to be concerned. It's not a conspiracy theory. The department itself has moved on these issues. What's really disturbing about the Hunter Biden matter is that this was similar to what we saw with when Houdini made his elephant Jenny disappear every night on the stage. Well, she really didn't disappear. She never left the stage. But Houdini knew that the audience wanted her to disappear. And the Bidens have been brilliant in handling this scandal. They knew the media wanted this scandal to disappear, and they gave them room for that illusion. Now they're running out of time and they're running out of space because the House is going to launch this investigation. And I think that what we're going to see is going to be disturbing. You know, the fact is that the president has been contradicted repeatedly. It does appear that his repeated denials that he never spoke to his son about his business deals is false. I mean, we have an actual recording of him calling his son to say that he wanted to talk to him about the media investigation into his business deals. We have an individual who had said under oath that he met twice with Joe Biden to talk about the foreign dealings with his son and his family. So at a minimum, what we have is the appearance of a multi-million-dollar influence peddling scheme involving the Biden family, but also the President of the United States. And yet Merrick Garland has refused to appoint a special counsel. I don't question the appointment of a special counsel on the Trump issue. He is a presidential candidate. That's within the strike zone. One can defend that. But you can't defend it if you're not appointing a special counsel, in my view, in the Hunter Biden matter. That involves the sitting president of the United States.
And Congressman Comer said this is an investigation of Joe Biden. And the deeper issue here is you have Hunter and the family making millions of dollars. Hunter has no experience at all. And Joe, we now could connect to Hunter. We can connect them financially now. And the question is bigger. In other words, is the reason that he canceled the Keystone XL pipeline but gave a waiver to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, is that because of the money that the Bidens made from Russia? Or is he compromised with China? In other words, do we have a president potentially compromised with foreign nations and adversarial countries?
Well, I think that's the reason we need to have finally this investigation. The Democrats blocked the investigation earlier in Congress of these transactions. You know, foreign countries know about these transactions. They know about a lot of these issues. It's the American people that need to know exactly what the scope of this is, and that includes these transfers. There's a lot of information that will come with that information, and the American people will now be able to see it. But the key here is not just that it's a matter of being compromised, but whether the president has knowingly and repeatedly lied to the American people. They have a right to know.
I think the bigger danger, though,
the White House would
is if they paid to play, he sold out his office. That would be an impeachable offense if true.
That is a great danger, yes.
All right, Jonathan Turley, always love having you. Thank you. All right, now, with Republicans once again set to take control of the House, Republican leader Kevin McCarthy has pledged to make big changes and remove prominent Democrats from their committee assignments, including Congresswoman Omar, who has made a number of anti-Semitic comments in the past. Also, that would include Adam Schiff. He's been caught lying countless times as a congressman. Went on for years and years and years. Take a look.
Donald Trump is someone who has shown when he's not held accountable, he goes on to commit worse and worse abuses of power. So I agree with Judge Carter in California. I think there was evidence that the former president engaged in multiple violations of the law, and that should be investigated.
We have the President of the United States engaged in a shakedown of a foreign president, a President of the United States, even as he is withholding vital military support to an ally, asking a favor of that ally to investigate his opponent.
I've been very clear over the last year and a half, that there is ample evidence of collusion in plain sight. I can certainly say with confidence that there is significant evidence of collusion between the campaign and Russia. There is already, in my view, ample evidence in the public domain on the issue of collusion, if you're willing to see it.
Okay, nobody saw it except him. But he did more than just lie. He actually sought out compromising information on Donald Trump from Russia without realizing he thought the person he was speaking to was a Russian official who had dirt on Donald Trump, but he himself was being duped about compromising materials. Take a look.
And she met with Trump and she brought him one-hour Russian girl, celebrity, Olga Buzova, who also known as a person with a strange reputation.
Olga, and how do you spell her name?
Olga Buzova.
And what's the nature of the compromise?
Well, there were pictures of naked Trump.
And so Putin was made aware of the availability of the compromising material?
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. We will be back in touch with you through our staff to make arrangements to obtain these materials for our committee and for the FBI, and I appreciate you reaching out to us.
He's colluding to get compromising materials. Anyway, now McCarthy's also threatened to bar Eric Swalwell, who sits on the House Intel Committee, despite having a past relationship with a suspected Chinese spy. All three members responded with outrage towards McCarthy and Republicans, but as Newt Gingrich rightly reminded everyone, it was Nancy Pelosi that set the precedent after removing Paul Gosar and Marjorie Taylor Greene from their committee assignments.
Empathy for the American worker, his belief in American strength, and his commitment to American prosperity. Sometimes I'll have someone tell me that the American First Policy Institute is a continuation of the presidency of Donald J. Trump by other means, and I always answer, well, I certainly hope so, but though we can succeed him in that work, we can never replace him, and nor would we want to, and neither, we're betting, would America. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage the man who has brought more prosperity to more people than any president in our lifetime, the man who made America great again, President Donald Trump.
this place. It's done so much good. Raised so much money for so many different things, and especially charity, and we're honored to have you all here. Brooke, for the incredible introduction. When you said the best leader you've ever met, ever seen, that's a pretty good statement. You've seen a lot. That's a beauty, but thank you very much to Brooke and the incredible, speaking of leadership, of America First Policy Institute, because the job you've done is just incredible in such a short period of time, too. Let me also recognize so many wonderful friends and distinguished guests with us this evening, including Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. Hi, Cindy, where have you been today? A lot of people here. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. North Carolina Lieutenant Governor, a real star, great guy, friend of mine, Mark Robinson. Thank you, Mark. Carrie Lake, who just went through an incredible election. There were a lot of broken voting machines, you heard that? Lots of them. They have to be in largely Republican areas, and what happened there is a disgrace. But I want to just tell you, you did some job, Carrie, and I know it's not over yet. A friend of mine, a great gentleman, Ronnie Jackson, Congressman Ronnie Jackson. Jason Smith. Buddy Carter. Claudia Tenney. A very quiet person that we like very much, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Another tough couple of guys, Scott Perry and Dan User. Thank you, fellas. Somebody who just ran an incredible race, another friend. They're all friends. They're warriors. Mary Miller. Louis Gomer. Thank you. Beth Van Dyne, congratulations. A strong man, a warrior. Clay Higgins. Clay, thank you very much. Great job. Barry Moore, first person to endorse Trump a long time ago. Thank you. Thank you, Barry. Alex Mooney, who just ran a great race. Thank you. Thank you. J.T. Thompson. Thanks, J.T. Good job. Michelle Fishbach. Thank you, Michelle. John Carter. Thanks, John. Russ Fulcher. Thank you. Thank you. Jack Bergman. Cat Cabot, Florida. Guy Wessenshaw. We have everybody here tonight. Thank you guys very much. Thanks. Representative-elect, a man who is going to be a future star, I predict, Wesley Hunt. And another one, Chuck Edwards. Great job. Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes. Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Sean. Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose. Thank you, Frank. Alabama Secretary of State, where we won by so much. He said, how can you possibly win Alabama by that much? South Carolina by records, both records, and then you lose Georgia? How does that happen? They're still wondering about that. Records, and a loss. Like, just a little bit. Secretary of State John Merrill. That's a good question. Thank you, John. And I want to also thank my friend Linda McMahon, Speaker Newt Gingrich, and Larry Kudlow. It's going to be very good ratings, Larry. I watch a lot, and we've had very, very good ratings. That's right. We're going to start calling you the ratings machine, right? John Ratcliffe. Where is John? I love John. Where the heck is John? That guy is a warrior. And countless former officials. We have tremendous people, ambassadors, all in the Trump administration. We have a tremendous group of people, and I attributed so much to what this whole America First movement stands for and represents. The job that Brooke and everybody does is a tremendous honor to be with you. Before we begin, I want to address the appalling announcement today by the egregiously corrupt the Biden administration and their weaponized Department of Justice. Would you like me to talk about that? This horrendous abuse of power is the latest in a long series of witch hunts. It started a long time ago. I thought the investigation with the document hoax was dying or dead or over, and the investigation into January 6th, and my very peaceful and patriotic speech, remember, peaceful and patriotically, was dead, especially after the record-setting 40-point loss of Liz Cheney in the great state of Wyoming. I thought that put the final nail in the coffin, only to find out that the corrupt and highly political Justice Department just appointed a super radical left special counsel, better referred to as a special prosecutor, to start the process all over again. We thought it was just about dead. As you know, just about the top person, one of the top people in the Justice Department, Lisa Monaco, a major Trump hater, beyond belief, is in charge of the case, and she's totally controlled by Andrew Weissman. You ever hear the name Andrew Weissman? I think you did. In this room you did. Bad person, bad guy, but he's an even bigger Trump hater. Sounds like a fair deal so far, do you agree? Who works tirelessly as he did on the Mueller scam, which ended up, as you know, no collusion, to do bad things to the greatest movement. They want to do bad things to the greatest movement in the history of our country, but in particular, bad things to me. But I got used to it. Lucky. It's lucky. A lot of people wouldn't get used to it so easily. This is a rigged deal, just as the 2020 election was rigged, and we can't let them get away with it. We can't do it. We cannot let this happen to our country. I've been going through these investigations and hoaxes and scams from the day I came down the escalator at Trump Tower, and you really say enough is enough. Got to get back to work. Got to prove that we have a great country again, because right now it's not great. Right now it's a laughing stock all over the world, and we sort of all had it. The people of the country have had it. Joe Biden is a corrupt and incompetent political hack. You take a look at all of the money that he's taken from foreign countries and others, much of it through his son Hunter, who is a corrupt drug addict and implementer for his father. Where's their special prosecutor, by the way? Where's their special? They said when I announced I had to do this. Well, he announced too. He said he wants to run. Where's their special prosecutor? And we are innocent. They are not innocent by any stretch of the imagination. They have the proof right out there for all to see. They left the exact blueprint of much of the criminal activity is done on his laptop from hell, they call it. The laptop from hell, which was gotten inadvertently, but luckily for America, when he incredibly left it at the repair shop to be fixed. That was not a good day. That was not a good leave. I wonder if the father was upset about it. He may not have understood the meaning. Did he understand that that was not good? Because he said he's the smartest person I've ever known. Hunter's the smartest person I've ever known. A lot of people shook their heads at that one. Does everybody remember the $1 billion of USA funds paid to Ukraine under the condition that they get rid of the prosecutor? That prosecutor's got to be fired. Remember that? Nothing gets done. Why isn't there a special counsel being set up for them? Tremendous corruption. They're corrupt people. They're criminals. I've done nothing wrong. They participated in massive criminal activity with many other nations. And one day after House of, you know what's happening. You take a look at what just went on with this election, which is so important because the House Republicans announced they were going to investigate the Bidens, and the Justice Department announces right after that they're going to investigate Trump. And it's not a fair situation what's going on, and I guarantee you they get a fair investigation. This will not be a fair investigation. But again, I thought this was all done, or very close to being done. These people are corrupt, and yet they go after innocent people under the guise of legitimacy. Over the years, I've given millions and millions of pages of documents, tax returns, and everything else. And they have found nothing, which means I've proven to be one of the most honest and innocent people ever in our country. Now they see how great it is. Now that they're looking at it, I built a great company. But think of it, millions of pages, they got nothing. So I've sort of had it. On January 6th, I've already tried, and you take a look with the fake impeachment hoax, and I won. I was tried on the fake impeachment hoax on January 6th. And they tried it in the Senate. They went through the whole process, and we won. We went through the whole process. So wouldn't this sort of be and then you take a look at the other. We went through two of them, and isn't it sort of like double jeopardy? In the old days, they used to call it double jeopardy. But essentially, we've done so well, and we did well in a very hostile Congress. We had great Republican support. I have to tell you that it was great because they saw something was really unfair. We were being unfairly treated. I made a perfect phone call. In fact, many of the people in this room called. They said that call is perfect. And some of the people in the room would not have actually gone with us, but that was an absolutely perfect phone call. I got impeached for a perfect phone call. Could you imagine if the call was actually a bad call? Could you imagine that? And on the document hoax, this is a total hoax that's going on. The Presidential Records Act and the Clinton Socks case, you know what that is, right? That's a case that's so powerful in our favor. Made everything that I've done totally legal and proper. It's totally legal and proper. It's just a witch hunt for no reason. Well, for political reasons, let's say. And they know that. It shouldn't even be a case, but if it is, why aren't they investigating all of the other presidents that preceded me, including Bill Clinton, both Bushes, Obama, and of course Hillary Clinton, where she illegally deleted 33,000 emails after getting a top-level subpoena from the U.S. Congress. So she's allowed to get a subpoena and delete 33,000 after the subpoena, not before, after. Why aren't they going after all of those presidents that kept documents where in a couple of cases, in one case they had it in a Chinese restaurant with broken windows, in another case they had a Chinese restaurant connected to a bowling alley. This is where the documents were kept. They took documents with them. President Obama took documents. It is such a unfair situation that's happening in this country to Republicans and to conservatives. And you people have to fight. You have to fight to be strong. If they're going to investigate me, they have to investigate all of these other presidents, and they have to start it right now. They have to invade. This is Mar-a-Lago. They have to invade Hillary and Bill Clinton's beautiful home in Westchester. They have to invade the Bush's home. They have to invade a lot of homes. But they didn't do that. They took documents, they took a lot of things. And that's what we have the Presidential Records Act for. We're living in a very corrupt country right now. Never had anything like it. Our elections are rigged, tainted, and bad. They take forever to get results, longer than any other country on the planet. We have elections still out there, and they won't be in for weeks. Third world countries have their elections in that same day, or maybe the next day. We have weeks and weeks and weeks for far fewer. Look at France, all paper ballots, voter ID, same-day voting. They had 36 million votes all done by 10:30 in the evening, and no complaints. Nobody said, gee whiz, this was not a proper election. We're a third world country in our elections, and our borders are wide open with unknown people, many of them, many millions and millions. Criminals, terrorists pouring into our country, millions. And don't believe when you hear 2 million or 3 million. I believe it's 10 million people. I believe it's 10 million. Our country is changing before our very eyes. We have no idea who these people are and where they came from. And they're terrorists, and they're criminals, murderers, they're rapists. And they're pouring into our country totally unimpeded. We have massive inflation, rampant crime. You can't even walk down the streets in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, and every other Democrat-run city without getting mugged, shot, or killed. Chicago recently, They had 82 people shot, 82 over a weekend. But they said it was a long weekend. Oh, okay, that's better. It was a long weekend. In Afghanistan, when I was in charge, we didn't have one killing. Think of it. In 18 months, not one of our soldiers were killed. And then you look at Chicago. We should have never left the way we left. I'm the one that started the leaving. I'm the one that got them down to the right number. But you leave the military, you take out the military last. We left people, we left American citizens, we left dead soldiers, and we left $85 billion worth of the best military equipment in the world. It's unthinkable what we did. And by the way, one of the largest sellers of military equipment right now in the world, I think number 2 or 3 right after us, is Afghanistan, the Taliban. They're one of the largest sellers of they're selling that because they don't need 700,000 rifles. They don't need 77,000 trucks that we left behind. Many of them brand new, never even used. We have drugged out crazy people walking around. Our economy is crashing, and we're teetering on the brink of World War III, and the word nuclear is used in a very light fashion. It was never used before. You never heard the word used during the Trump administration, and it should never be used because of the power. It should never be used. Nobody should be allowed to use that word. And yet all the corrupt Marxists in the Biden administration can think about it. It's all they can think about. That's all they have in their mind is come after Trump. We got to get Trump. They say they want to run against me, but they're spending fortunes. Let's take him out. If they really wanted to run against me, they'd say, let's leave him in. Let's leave him in. Because they are the party of misinformation. misinformation. They give massive misinformation. They say one thing, but they mean another. And you have to understand them. They're sick people in so many ways. But we've done nothing wrong, and they've committed massive crimes. We're not going to let these atrocious abuses continue. We can't. As a party, we can't. And as a nation, we can't. We're going to stand up to these tyrants, and we're going to take away their power, and we're going to restore government for the people. We have to do it. As I said earlier this week, America's comeback starts right now. I shouldn't say this because we're all doing so well. One of the networks, you see all networks, they came in. I said I was going to respond to this today, and I'd never seen the press move so fast. This was supposed to be a press-free zone, and now they came, but they wanted to hear. But one of them, when I said starts right now, I may be wrong, but one of them, they put it in slow motion to make me look good. So it said, America's comeback starts right now. It starts right now. Senators just said to me, you know, you could come back to your house, and I said, but I'm already in my house. So we can do this, and I'm already in my house, so that's okay too. But we have no choice, we have to do this. It's not often pleasant, but we have no choice because we're losing our country. Our country is really, I call it a country in decline. We're a country in decline. We're a failed country right now. Days ago, we officially won back the House of Representatives and fired Nancy Pelosi. And on Tuesday, right here at Mar-a-Lago, I announced that to make America great again, and we want to make it great and glorious again. We have to make it great and glorious. I'm using that word more and more because of spirit. We have to have new spirit in our country. It's going to be great and glorious, but that I'm running for the President of the United States. And so far we're doing well, really well. And, we hope to do it, and I wish everybody a lot of luck if they want to go for it, but they can go for it. But that's Republicans, Democrats, whatever. But I will tell you, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to win very big. There's a spirit in terms of what we're doing that I've never seen before. People want hope. They need hope. We're giving them hope. Under our corrupt and incompetent president and the radical left thugs, we are truly, and I say it, we're a failing nation. We're a nation in decline, and I believe that the America First movement remains the only force on earth that can save our country. It's more than an individual, it's a movement. We have this greatest movement in the history of our country, and it's going to be this movement that saves our country. It's going to be this movement. You're a big part of it. Make From the border crisis to the energy crisis, from inflation to violent crime, and from Washington corruption to Joe Biden's humiliation of our country on the world stage. It's humiliating, but help is on the way. He went to the G20, and the big thing at the G20 always, I've done it 4 times, was the big dinner. Everybody comes in, the 20 major leaders, want to get along with them. I was making deal after deal. Most of the deals I made were Breaking Bad deals that were made. But I was making deal after deal. He didn't show up to the dinner. And they just said, no, he's out for the night, that's it. And everybody said, what happened to the President of the United States? He never showed up. You know that dude, right? He didn't show up. I don't know what the hell happened to him. But you know what happened to him? Why didn't he show up? Newt Gingrich doesn't know, nobody knows, right? Calista will tell me that all the time. She doesn't really believe it. She's the key to that family. Under our leadership, we will quickly, very rapidly, rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We did it before. We're going to do it